Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday, December 19th. Can you freaking believe it? It's almost the end of the year. If you have not joined us before, I'm a sales coach and trainer, and I work with both individuals and organizations to help them do one thing and one thing only, increase their sales. And if you have joined us before, you know that every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, I either do a live training or a live interview with somebody who can add value to the profession of sales. And today is no exception, my friends. Before I introduce our guest, I just will say this. It is the end of the year. You've got maybe 2 weeks. In fact, let's see, you've got really about 5 selling days left, maybe, if you don't count Christmas, even Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, whether you work the day after. So you've only got a few days left. But that does not mean it's time to stop. Now is absolutely the time to make some calls. Call everybody who told you all year that they were going to think it over. They had to talk to their partner. They had to talk to their husband or wife, whatever it is. It's a great time to touch base and say, hey, just called to wish you a happy holidays, happy New Year. By the way, is there anything I can do for you now? You just might pull out a deal before the end of the year there. Number two, if you sell to corporations, absolutely positively reach out right now and say, hey, do you have any budget that you need to dump? In a department like a training department that I often work with, they have a budget for the year. And if they don't use them, let's say they're given $200,000 for the year. If they only use $150,000, then they only get $150 next year instead of the whole 200. And I've absolutely positively had clients that I've reached out to in December. I said, if you want to dump some budget, I'll invoice you now. You can use the money next year. And the next thing you know, I've got a $25,000 deal or a $40,000 deal. And all I'm doing is holding their money, but I've got it now, which means they're definitely going to use me next year. So that's the second thing. And the last thing is this. Now is not the time to give up. Keep working now, because what you're doing now is setting up your Q1. Keep prospecting, keep calling, keep sending emails, keep doing whatever you need, because it's not time to relax yet. New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, there's your time to relax. And then guess what? You're going to start all over again. And our guest today is going to talk a little bit about starting over and how you can maybe go into the new year with the right mindset. He is a business executive and leadership coach and runs a practice called Bellowood Coaching that specializes in helping great salespeople turn into CEOs, busy people gain balance, teams to operate in alignment, and live in a state of radical honesty. I like that. Not just regular honesty, radical honesty. Please welcome today's guest, John Sheldon. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Jeff. Appreciate you having me on, man.
Hey, man, I'm really excited to talk to you. Before I ask you the 1,000,001 questions that I have for you, John, could you maybe give us the 2-minute version of your background?
Yeah, absolutely. You and I were just talking before. I grew up in upstate New York in a tiny little farm town. Right out of high school, I joined the Marine Corps in the early 2000s as a Marine infantry. Did 2 combat tours to Iraq between the years of 2005 to 2009, where I was a Marine Corps infantry squad leader. Ran about 200 missions in combat. Got out, went directly to school, ended up getting a job into an internship into financial planning. Did that, ran my own practice for about 7 years, transferred into a sales director role, ran all of upstate outside of the city for that company. And then, started my coaching practice in 2021 as kind of like an offshoot. Had been asked by a bunch of mentors if we could make something more formal. The company I was working with agreed, ended up going full time into this business officially a year ago, 19 days ago. And it's been gangbusters since, man. I'm super happy. My clients, myself, are gaining so much clarity, so much progress. And yeah, that's kind of high level, man. That's my story up to this point.
Gotcha. Did you say that you officially started just 19 days ago?
No. A year and 19 days.
No. Okay. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. I've been a paid coach for over a decade.
Gotcha.
This business started 4 years ago, and full time a year and 19 days ago.
Beautiful. One of the things I want to ask you about is I always go to people's websites and their LinkedIn feeds, and there was something on your website that I saw that you said, I love bringing the most out of people. It is my ikigai. Ikigai is a Japanese concept that I've heard of before, but for those who don't know, can you please describe what is ikigai?
Yeah, it's basically 4 columns. It's what are you good at? What do you like to do? What does the world need? And what can you be paid for? So it's the reason for being, roughly translated. I use it in my practice as your purpose, which I think is huge. I think a lot of people, when they lose focus on what their purpose in life is, they're really out of alignment with almost everything else, including sales professionals, actually, especially sales professionals. You can take that ikigai, utilize it in business and in your personal life. I think it's interchangeable in a lot of senses, and it should marry each other, right? A lot of people that are finding not a lot of enjoyment or not a lot of success, even though they might be really good at something, most likely your purpose is off.
And why do you think it is? Because, well, this is just my experience. I don't think most people are aware of their purpose in life. Most people, I think, just kind of wander through life doing what they do. They go to work, they work 9 to 5, they come home, they have a few beers, they wait for the weekend, and they do it all over again, maybe take a week or two vacation. But an actual, what's my why? What's my purpose in life?
Yeah.
I don't think most, why do you think most people don't have a purpose? And why should they?
Well, yeah, great question. Because if you don't, you're out of alignment. Plain and simple. And why they don't is because most people have never taken the time and they're scared of what that would cost. And that word cost is going to come up a lot in our conversation today.
Pause.
Cost.
Oh, cost.
Yep. Yeah.
When you get to my age, you won't hear a damn thing either, John.
Yeah, it's okay. Here, I'll use myself as an example, right? I spent 15 years of financial planning, progressed very well through that career, did very well for myself, to be honest with you. And I was out of alignment because it was that one piece of what I like to do. I will say this right now. I never really enjoyed it. I was good at it. The world needed it, right? I could get paid for it, but that one piece, what do I like to do? And there was always something missing in my life. I actually never bought into that getting out of the Marine Corps. I was like, who cares? I'll just go. I grew up really impoverished. I just want to go make a lot of money and live a lifestyle that I could have never dreamed. And quite frankly, I've done that well. I was still massively out of alignment and I was so unhappy, truthfully unhappy. I felt like a ghost in the mirror. Like I didn't understand why, what is this thing that I'm missing? And that's what I mean by the cost. I wasn't prepared to leave this career that had afforded me a life I had never imagined, for the purpose, for my true purpose. So for me, it was that one column that was missing. I had all the other three. It was that one column I was missing. That's what I mean by that.
And how did that actually affect you? I mean, you made a bunch of money, you were living this dream lifestyle. How did that affect you being out of alignment in that one area?
I think, really, honestly, my wife brought it to my attention. We live a pretty cool lifestyle, and she's like, "You're just not happy. Like having just authentic conversations with your partner. Like, you're just not happy. What's going on?" And the further that I dug, actually, the pandemic helped me a lot with this because honestly, I could do my job vastly more efficiently over Zoom. In my sales director role, I didn't have to drive hours to go visit offices.
Yep.
And so it gave me a lot more time to honestly think of hey, what do I really love? And in that director role, personally, I love the development and the coaching aspect and the leadership aspect. And when I started looking back at my past, that's what I loved about the Marine Corps too. That's why I progressed so quickly through the Marine Corps in the ranks, quite frankly, is because I bought into leadership. I liked that piece of it. I liked the mentorship. I gave a shit, quite frankly.
Yep. Yeah. I think you're on the money there. I think most people, they just don't take the time to give the thought necessary to what really makes me happy. And, I've given the advice a million times as a professional speaker. And, I speak on stages in front of sometimes, large crowds. And, when you give a talk, people always want to come up and they want to shake your hand after and tell you how great you did and all that stuff, which is always lovely. But you have to come off with confidence on stage. Otherwise, people aren't going to accept whatever you talk about, whether it's sales or being a dad or whatever that is. And because you come off with confidence, people ask questions that have nothing related to what my expertise. I mean, I'm an expert in a few things. I'm an expert in sales and sales management. I'm really good at raising kids, but not much else in life. I'm pretty damn good at stand-up comedy. I'm a stand-up comedian on the side, but there's not much else. And the question I get most often is, "Hey, Jeff, I don't know what to do with the rest of my life. What should I do?" And in my head, I'm going, "You don't know what to do with your life, and you're expecting me. How would I know what to do with your life?" But my advice has always been, what would you do if the money didn't matter? What would you do? What would really make you happy to go through life on a daily basis? Now find a way to make money doing that.
Yeah. And I never, Jeff, I'll be honest, I never bought into that. I heard that a long time ago. I never bought into that until, again, about 4 years ago. And I was like, oh, yeah, they were right.
Yeah, everything shifts. Everything shifts.
Absolutely. Everything shifted for me, truthfully.
Yeah, I mean, it's lovely to make a lot of money. And I've made a lot of money and not made a lot of money. And I'll say this, having money beats the heck out of not having money.
I tell everybody,
but not at the cost of your happiness, not at the cost of your peace. I'd rather have a little less money and be happy and content and peaceful, which is how my life works. I don't live in the fanciest house. I live in a nice house. I don't drive the fanciest car. I drive a nice car, but I live where I want to live. I run my business the way I want to. And to me, that really is the essence. Money's great. And again, it beats the heck out of not having it, but it's not everything.
Agreed.
You early on said that you figured out that you had a knack for seeing obstacles from a 30,000 foot view, clear, unfiltered, with no ego. Were you born with that ability, or was that something that developed? And are you only able to see your own obstacles, or is that part of your coaching? You're able to see obstacles for other people?
I think, man, that's a great question. That last part too. So yes, I've always been the person in my friend group that people always ask ever since I was a kid. I mean, since I was a teen, we'll call it. I can't speak to when I was 5, but ever since I was a teen, I've always been the friend that people ask for tough advice, because I view the world very objectively, truthfully, in ways that have actually hurt personal relationships, quite frankly. Right? I see the world very, very objectively all the time. Does that work all the time in your own situation? No, it doesn't. And I'd be lying if I sat here and said, yeah, I see all of my obstacles as well. I see them so clearly. No, because emotion obviously plays a huge role in so many decisions that we make. And when you get stuck, now, will I say why I can probably claim I'm better than most at getting through the obstacle? I believe in that Marcus Aurelius, that quote that, Ryan Holiday wrote a great book called The Obstacle is the Way. Marcus Aurelius famously said, whatever is in the way then becomes the way. I'm a big believer in that. That's whenever I use the word obstacle, that's what I mean. But yeah, I've always been that guy that people call when they need real advice, not the, hey, agree with me type of advice that we've all called friends for in the past. Like, you're calling them, let's call it what it is. Anybody listening to this, sometimes you call people for confirmation bias. That's okay.
That bitch of a wife said this.
Yeah,
she's right. Oh, yeah, she's horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got one friend in my mind that, every time, if I really did a deep dive into our conversations, every time I call him for something challenging, I know he's going to agree with me, and I know it's going to make me feel good, right? So, no, am I immune to seeing every obstacle? Of course not. Do I think that I'm probably better based on that I do this so consistently for other people all the time? That, yeah, and I give myself a lot of grace for that too, because we're all human. I'd be lying if I said here, I was like, oh man, I never run into problems. I always see the obstacle coming. I always face it head on. No, not even close. Right. But I do understand when I get called out very, very clearly, and I don't take personally. My wife can be very hard on me, in a great way. We honestly have a fantastic relationship, but that's what I need. And she knows that. Right. There are very few people, because of my profession and because of the person that I am in my friend group and in my family, that don't give me that type of direct feedback. And I need that as well. Right. I think we all do. But yeah, I see the world, and I always have, from my memory, from that 30,000 foot view, I call it. And that's why coaching has become so natural. Consulting has become so natural to me, is that I don't really fear having the tough conversations, because I truthfully believe that they are necessary in life.
Yeah, look, we all have and need the friend who will just support us no matter what, because sometimes that's exactly what's called for.
Exactly.
But certainly as a coach, that's not what I do. And one of the things I'm very big on talking about with people is you got to have an accountability partner. And it doesn't have to be a paid coach like you or me. And of course, I do accountability with my coaching clients, but you need somebody who's going to call you on your shit.
Yes.
And I always give the same advice. Your mom cannot be your accountability partner. Your spouse, your family, they love you too much, and they're going to be easy on you. What you need, look, you need an accountability partner who, when you keep your word, because to me, that's the whole thing. Make promises and report in. And when you keep your word, you get a high five. But when you don't, you get your ass kicked.
Yeah.
Because when you haven't kept your word, when you haven't done the things you know you're supposed to do, I know you tried your best, doesn't help. It's why did you give me your word and not keep it?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what you describe as radical honesty. Sometimes, people may think they want the pat on the back, but you really need the kick in the butt sometimes.
Yeah. It's always, Jeff, and you'll probably remember these texts that you've gotten as well. It's always like the initial offense, that people take, and then you get the text 6 hours later. Thanks. Needed that. When they've got time to process it, to adjust, right? I've had that happen with clients too. I've gotten off calls like, yeah, they're probably going to fire me. And then you get the text. It's like, I needed that. That's exactly why I hired you. Cool. We're on the same page.
Yeah. My coaching clients don't hire me to tell me to pay me to tell them how great they are.
Exactly.
And I acknowledge them when they're great, but what?
Yeah.
Let's make the good things better and let's fix what's not working. Now, you're an accomplished guy. You've owned and operated multiple businesses. You've grown and led teams in the Marines. Thank you, by the way.
Appreciate it.
You say, and I found this fascinating, what I'm most proud of is that I'm a fierce friend and husband. Why is that the thing you're most proud of? And what makes you fierce as a friend and husband? I love that word.
People that know me know this. If you are in my circle, you're in my circle. And if you're not, you're not. And there's that comes off super direct, but that's really how it is with me. Honestly, I give people the benefit of the doubt a lot of times, but the second that you're out, you're kind of out. And I'll tell you why, because that's what I mean by fierce. I don't think that there are so many valuable people that truly care and will reciprocate your energy and your effort into relationships, that people that don't, or that don't serve the path or the vision that you're on in life. Okay. Like what you said earlier, promise keepers, right? It's a piece of that. And that's what I mean by fierce. And like my cousin calls me that all the time. He always laughs at me. He's like, man, I wish sometimes I could be like you, because I'm the type of dude, my buddy, actually, this is kind of crazy. Actually, one of my best friends owns a rental property. He had a problem. He had these guests that were problems. This is like 3 weeks ago. And he texts me and he goes, having problems. His rental property is actually kind of near my house. He said, I'm driving up there. Do you mind if I come for backup? Would you mind coming for backup? I'm like, oh, all right, whatever. It's 11 o'clock at night. And my wife hears me starting to put my shoes on. And she's like, what are you doing? And I go, JC called. I got to go. That's what I mean by, and she understood that because she knows that's my personality, right? Same thing with my wife. I will defend her to the day. We have obviously every couple, ups and downs and lefts and rights and all that type of stuff, but she's my person and we are a unit, and my friend group is a part of that unit. I define, and this is something that I learned in the Marines and I'm so internally grateful for it. I don't define family as blood. And I remember when I first told my dad that, he was like kind of blown away. I love my parents, but he was like, what do you mean? I go, family to me is what you represent in both of our lives. Is that reciprocation? Is that relationship? I found true I have 2 older sisters and they're amazing human beings, but I found my brotherhood in the Marine Corps, and it blew my mind of like, how could I love these guys so much that I would die for them? And that's what I've taken out into the civilian world as well. If you're in my crew, I hate using that word. I don't know why I use that word, but
I get it.
If you're in my group, you're in my group. That's it. And there's a reciprocation there. And that's what I mean by fierce. And that's why I say I'm most proud of it. And look, yeah, thank you for saying that. I've lived a eventful life, we'll call it. That's what I say. At the end of the day, just like you, I've had ups and downs, right? I was this early on in my career, I got denied buying eggs. It's like, wow, all right, I'm such a good financial advisor and I don't have any money. When you look back at those times, and why that's the thing I'm most proud of is who's around still. What group have you created in your life that no matter what, they're there? And that's why that's the most thing I'm proud of. Because all of this, my business everything could fall apart right now. And the friend group I truly believe is that I've created will still be there.
Yeah, I'm with you 1,000,000%. Look, your family are the people you're born into, and they may be closer or not. But I've got certainly guys and women who I consider family, even though we're not blood related. Mm-hmm. I mean, people who I've got 3 guys who I went to high school with, which I consider brothers. And like here's how I define friend. And I think people often use the term a little too loosely. A friend is somebody who can call you up at 2 a.m, wake you up in the middle of the night and say, hey man, my car just broke down. I'm drunk. I lost my wallet. Can you come help me? And you go, you effing a-hole. Yes, I'm on the way. Where are you? Because
100%, man.
Because because they would do it for you. But for me, it's not even that they would do it for you. It's just that's who they are to me, and that's who I am to them. And typically it is reciprocal. But family, some of them may or may not, actual family, some of them may or may not. I'm pretty sure my kids are like that for me. I'm not so sure about some of the others.
Same, dude.
I've got something called the Sales Confidence Lab, which is a program for what I call accidental sellers. And an accidental seller is somebody who wasn't born to sell. I'm a professional seller. You're
Yes.
both, actually. You were a professional seller. Now you're a coach and you're selling yourself. So coaches are what I consider accidental sellers. Nobody goes into coaching to be a salesperson. They go into coaching because they want to help people lose weight, have better relationships, better life, whatever it is. But they have to sell. So I created this program just for them. And
I like it.
Thank you. But there's a reason I'm telling you about this. The very first session, the entire first 2-hour session, is all about mindset. Because they don't have the right mind. They think selling is sleazy, selling is a pushy, aggressive. And you say mindset is an operating system, not a buzzword. And I like that very much. In the moment, under pressure, what does mindset in the moment actually look like for you?
Clarity. I think having not to use the word purpose, but understanding why you're doing it. I think is we use the word why, but mindset in the moment, as you aptly pulled, looks like look, sales is hard.
That's why we make the big bucks.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's hard,
and it is hard.
It's tough. And one of the things that the worst thing that can happen in sales, there's a lot of bad things, I guess, but on an actual sales call, the worst thing that really can happen is a no, right? Pretty much in that role. Now, what that no represents might be your mortgage. I understand that. But the worst thing that can happen in that second is no. Me coming from a military background and having done quite a bit of combat, that was kind of a joke to me, quite frankly. And so the worst thing that could happen to me right now in this moment is no. I think putting that in perspective is what I mean by mindset in the moment. Is, Mel Robbins had this really, I'm assuming most people know who she is by now, but has this really great 5-second rule, if you've ever heard of it, Jeff. And it's psychological, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you do it, right? That is kind of what this is a little bit, is getting in that right mindset of like, it doesn't matter, just hit the button, just ask, right? And that's what I kind of mean by mindset in the moment, of being able to, what I call shoot and move. It's not going to go perfectly. Understand that and get over it. Every sales call isn't going to work exactly the way that you think so. And so mindset in the moment is being able and prepared to be able to make those shifts and moves consistently. And the pros, the way that they get good at it is they practice. Man, it's like such an easy concept in my mind. But when I'm coaching people, I coach a lot of sales guys. And when I'm coaching people, I'm like, so when was the last time you actually even practiced? You've been doing this for a while, but when was the last time? Yeah, I'm in upstate New York. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, like it or hate it. Don't really care. Okay. NFL players, when you really think about every elite person that people really admire, I don't admire Josh Allen for the record. I think he's a great football player. But when you look at all those people, SEALs, Delta, NFL, MLB, whatever it might be, they practice more than they play.
Way more. They're practicing every day. They practice 6 days a week to play the game once a week.
Exactly. And so when you talk about mindset in the moment, we're trying to get to that version of you that just clicks. So you don't have to worry about it. And that's how your mindset changes when you're just going through almost like, I know what to do here. I know that this obstacle exists. I'm prepared for this. Or if you're not, and then what happens is you get good, and you know this, you get good at improvising in the moment. That's what I mean by mindset in the moment, is being able to condition yourself to understand that this is probably not going to go the way that you want to. Good. Get yourself the reps, right? Understand that you're going to mess up. My buddies and I, when we first started in financial planning, used to make calls on speakerphone. And we used to hilariously laugh when people would hang up or give us these crazy answers after the calls. And it made the next call so much easier. You're conditioning your mindset for it. That's what I mean by that.
I love that. I don't know if you're a fan of the law of attraction. So I've read the books, I've seen the movies, I love that stuff, but they left one thing out. It's all about, if you think the right thoughts and feel the right feelings, you're going to attract everything you want into your life. But the one thing they left out was you have to think the right thoughts, you have to feel the right feelings, but you also have to take massive action. And that's what I like about what you said just now. Yeah, you got to be rehearsing 5 days a week, 7 days a week. You got to be role playing, practicing. I just created a GPT that salespeople can use to interact with, just to role play with on a phone.
I love that. That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. But and when I'm in my sales confidence lab, they role play almost every week with each other. And amazingly, the feedback I got after the last one I ran was, we really like the role playing, because I think, salespeople typically don't love role playing. We don't like doing. It's embarrassing sometimes. We don't like to screw up, but it's. I'm going to take a wild guess that they didn't, when you joined the Marine Corps, I don't think they stuck you in Iraq the first day with a gun and said, go ahead, figure it out. You went through intense training. I'm not guessing. I know that you did.
Yes.
And because you don't want to be standing there in a life and death situation going, what do I do? Where is the safety? How do I get this thing to work?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's there's a price to pay for everything. And if you're not willing to pay it, you're just not going to be successful. But, fortune favors the bold, but that fortune also favors the prepared. And that's what I think so many salespeople and people in general, they're just not willing to pay the price. You said it. Sales is not an easy gig. I often say this. I often say it beats digging ditches in the hot sun. Now, I don't know that because I never dug ditches in the hot sun, but I'm betting it beats that. But it ain't easy. It's mentally exhausting. And we hear no more than we hear yes, which is why you need to be strong mentally. Otherwise, you're screwed. Yes?
Yep. Yeah, and you just brought up that word, that word I brought up in the beginning, cost again. Exactly. I knew it was going to come up. Because it comes up, cost.
I believe there's a price to pay for everything. And I also believe that, I keep hearing myself saying things, and they're actually just lessons I taught my kids as they were growing up. There's also a consequence to every action. Every single action has a consequence. Some are good, some are bad, but there is a consequence every time, which is why, look, I'm the happy, laughing, fun dad, all that stuff, except my kids also growing up knew that there was a time where daddy was going to turn into father. I never beat my kids. I wasn't a screamer or a holler, but they knew when the daddy voice came out, it's time to listen, as opposed to this guy. And my thing was, I didn't feel it was my job to tell my kids they were perfect every moment. I felt it was my job to train them for life, because the real world, crap happens. And I'd rather that I teach them a lesson now than they learn a lesson on the street somewhere or from the police or something like that. And to me, it just made sense. Did that mean they always loved everything that I was sharing with them? Probably not. And maybe the salespeople that I work with or manage or train, maybe they don't like everything, but it's all to pay the reps, pay the price, make you stronger so that you're ready for combat.
Yeah. Agreed.
How did combat leadership, because you were not just a Marine, you were a leader. How did combat leadership in the Marines shape the way you approach sales in general and really your first sales role?
Yep. So I think understanding the complexity of humans, I think that's exactly how it helped me. In the Marine Corps, you have people from every race, religion, background from all over the country. In a single unit. In my 13-man squad, I think we represented at least 5 states, from all different backgrounds, different people they grew up, whatever. And I think that's really helpful, because you have to understand in real leadership. Now, most people look at military leadership and they take like movie examples and like, everyone's yelling and screaming and dictating, and not even close. Good leaders don't do that anyways, right? They don't need to. But that's how I think the leadership role in the Marines helped me in sales, was to get deep and digging early on without needing to be told who needs to ask the better question, because I was already used to having to ask young men hard questions to be able to lead them properly. Same thing with sales, as you know, whoever asks the best question wins, right? So that's, I think it's actually a phenomenal question, Jeff. I've never been asked that before. That's how I view it, is being able to dig, and was already trained to dig to be a good leader. It also makes you a good salesperson. Yeah,
I never would have thought of that, but you're 100% right. Most people think sales is about giving a great presentation and being a good closer. And look, I'm both. I've been selling for 50 years. I sold Encyclopedia Britannica door to door a million years ago. I know how to close. I sure did, man. Door to door. I had an exhibit at LaGuardia Airport, a permanent exhibit in the Delta terminal. When you got your ticket back in the days when you had to buy tickets at the airport, and you walked through the gate, there I was with a booth standing there selling you $2,000 sets of encyclopedias right there in the airport. And this was all, this is all a one call close. You either sold them or you didn't. So I know how to close, but that's not how you make money in sales. You said the number one thing. It's all about asking great questions. If you want to be better at sales, just get better at having great conversations and asking great questions. And of course, if you're going to be a great question asker, by necessity, you've got to be a great listener. And most salespeople, and this is a technical sales training term, most salespeople suck at listening. They're horrible listeners. Look, I get paid to speak, but not when I'm selling. When I'm selling, I get paid to ask questions and listen to the answers. Yeah. And the third thing you have to be is a great storyteller. We're talking to John Sheldon, the owner of Bellawood Coaching. We're going to take a 60-second break for our sponsor, which is me. Hey, it's Jeff. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast, The Sales Pro Network. But I'm here to talk about something else today. Are you a coach, consultant, creative, a solopreneur, or small business owner? And maybe you don't like selling. Maybe you think in order to sell, you have to be sleazy or pushy or salesy. I'm here to tell you that you don't have to be. And in fact, I've created a 12-week live program just for you. It's called the Sales Confidence Lab, and we meet every week for 2 hours. And during those 2 hours, I'll give you both the mindset and the skill sets to enroll more clients more confidently. You'll do it naturally, without any sleaze, without being pushy, without corny scripts or anything like that. I'll teach you how to have natural conversations that result in more people enrolling with you. If you're interested, drop me an email at jeff@salesconfidencelab.com. We just finished the first 12-week program, and both the reviews and the results were outstanding. The next program starts on January 6th, so if you're interested, drop me a line at jeff@salesconfidencelab, and I'll get back to you with the details. And we're back with John Sheldon of Bellawood Coaching. If you prefer not to email me, you can go to salesconfidencelab.com for information, or if you want to just chat with me and talk to me about it, you can email me at jeff@salesconfidencelab. If you do go to register, please use the coupon code Duke, D-U-K-E, that's my dog, Duke50 will get you $50 off. And we're limiting the lab to 20 people. And I checked yesterday, I think there's still a few spots left, but not many. So if you're interested, get in there now and check it out. And if you have any questions, just get in touch with me. John, we were talking a little bit about your time in the Marines. Can you connect a specific moment in combat to a moment maybe in a client meeting or the boardroom?
Yeah. So there was this, there was this, I got into this actually really kind of blowout argument with my lieutenant on this night patrol, night raid we were going to do. And what ended up happening is he was making a really bad call, a really dangerous call for the patrol. Without getting into details, there was a sandstorm. Nobody could see. Also means that helicopters or birds couldn't fly if we got injured, which unfortunately was happening pretty consistently. And he's like, it was kind of an annoying, like, nonsense patrol. And he and I, in front of my staff sergeant, who was the platoon leader, got into a really heated argument. And I said, I'm not taking my squad out when the air is ready. One, we weren't allowed to. We weren't supposed to anyways. And he was going to do this under the radar. And the mission was, we weren't hunting anybody or anything like that. We were just going to go walk around, essentially, right? And so we got into a big blowout. And I said, I won't do it, which is you're not allowed to do. He's the lieutenant. I was not. I was a corporal. And what that taught me in the boardroom, was you got to stand up for what's right, even when it matters. Not only when it doesn't matter, but when it really matters, you need to stand up for what's right, and you need to challenge people when you know what's right is right. And that showed up in my life in boardrooms. That showed up in sales calls. I remember this one client. My buddy laughed. He still laughs at me to this day. We're meeting with him. It was probably like 6 meetings or something like that, and everything made sense. He had the money for it. He liked it. He kept telling us that. And he goes, I'm just going to probably just going to wait until March, which is like 3 months. And I remember just right off the cuff, it just brought me back to the moment of and I just said, why not now? This matters. Right? You've been pushing this off already for 6 months. And I honestly was way too aggressive about it, but it got to him. He signed the paperwork that day, was a client until I left the practice, and spoke raving fans about it. But in that moment, you need to take the chance, you need to be honest. You need to do what's right because it was right for the client. It was beneficial for him, right? And sometimes they need to be led. Like sometimes they need to be led. And so that's a perfect example of something I take directly from a combat experience into the boardroom, which I've done to many leaders that I've worked with and to clients.
There's a great book called The Challenger Sale that talks about.
I haven't heard of that.
I think it's about 5 or 6 years old. It was written by a couple of people who own a company that sells that type of training called the Challenger Sale. So in the book, they talk about 5 different types of salespeople, one of them being the challenger, and them saying that's the salesperson that does the best. And the challenger is exactly what it sounds like. The challenger is somebody who will say to a prospect, no, I think you're wrong about that. And here's why, and here's what you should be doing instead. Whereas most salespeople are trained, whatever the almighty customer wants, the customer is always right, which that's not even the whole saying. If you look into history, but the challenger supposedly is a better salesperson. I read most of the sales books that come out, and I really like the challenger methodology. The challenge I saw is it's going to be very hard to implement unless you've got. It's better for an enterprise organization that has a lot of money to put behind it. But sometimes you have to challenge. But I'm curious though, what happened with your lieutenant? Because if your lieutenant gives you an order, don't you have to follow it?
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't get in trouble for that. He was huge too, by the way. I'm not a super like big guy. He was like 6'4", like 260. He was a huge guy. He reprimanded me, got in my face. We almost got into fisticuffs, and then we squashed it. That was it. We walked away because at the you know what, Jeff, at the end of the day, if that ever would have came to light, he would have gotten in serious trouble because that was literally against the rules. You can't do it. So that's why I didn't get in trouble, because if anybody he would have tried to get me in trouble. He was actually the one that was wrong.
So you ended up not going on this patrol?
No, it didn't. No, it worked. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Look, I let my prospects tell me what they need rather than me pushing something on them. But when they ask for something that I know is not going to serve them, I will. Here's an example. When I go in to sell sales training to a corporation or a smaller business, and I always tell them, look, if you just want sales training, I'll come in for a day and teach them how to prospect. I'll teach them how to sell, whatever the program is. And they're going to have a lot of fun. I'm very entertaining. I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm going to engage them. It's going to be a lot of fun. They're going to learn a lot of stuff. But without some reinforcement, without some coaching on the back end, all you're doing is paying my mortgage. It's really a waste of your time. We call it training as an event. And it's motivational, but what you're really looking for, in my opinion, when you hire me to train your salespeople is you want an increase in sales. You want sales to actually go up. It's not going to do it. I'm great at what I do, but without the reinforcement, it's not going to work. Yep. Now that I've told you that, Mr. or Ms. Prospect, I will still take your money if you just want training. But I'm telling you, all you're doing is paying my mortgage. So I love the term on your website, radical honesty. I'm radically honest. And if you still want to do what I'm telling you shouldn't do, and you want to pay me for it, I'm still going to do it. But I don't know that I want to go out on a night patrol where I could die for no reason. That sounds like a pretty good thing to stand up for.
Right.
You talk about blueprints and battle plans for growth. What's the difference between a real actionable battle plan and what you call the kind of vision board nonsense that most leaders hide behind?
Yeah, it actually goes right into what you just said a little bit. Most people do the superficial work and they'll create a vision board, and most vision boards are all materialistic things, house, cars, whatever. And they'll be like, yeah, I did a vision. No, you didn't. Like you did what you wanted to buy, essentially. So that's what I mean by vision board nonsense, to hide behind it, because you think you're doing the work, the internal work that you need to do to get to the next level, and you're just not. And what I mean by what actually works, this battle plan methodology, as I call it, I might change the name, but that's what there's 6 key steps for it. And I'll explain this to your audience now. Get clear, assess the condition, know the cost, align your action to those 3 things, act, and then adapt. That's what I mean by a battle plan. You take the vision board and you say, now let's do something. Where am I clear? What condition am I in right now to actually do that vision? What cost am I willing to pay? I told you it was going to come up a couple of times. What cost am I willing to pay? Is that first action that I'm about to do in alignment with that? Then you actually have to act. And if it's not working, or if it is working, you better be adapting to your situation. So checking in with yourself, is this still working? How many times have you coached somebody and They put maybe a dial number or reach out number or email list or whatever that is. And they do that for entire 6 months. Like, I didn't get many results. Well, you needed to triple it, dude. And you should have realized that 5 days in, or not 5 days in, but a month in, not 90 days in. And that's what I mean by adapt, is being honest with yourself and having no ego and say, look, this isn't working. Let's adapt now, right? And the quicker you can do that, and what I like to do is that's a big presentation that I give. But what my claim to fame is I can get people to that stage if they do it correctly, and I can have you go through all 6 of those steps in 90 seconds. Wow. So when you're in the moment, like we were talking about earlier, you can make adjustments on the fly. Get clear, condition, cost, align, and then act. And obviously, adapt comes after that.
Gotcha. I don't know that I would change that name, battle plan.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks, man.
I think it's going to turn some people off, but I've been paying attention recently. I'm hearing commercials for various products or services that are clearly going after the American market, the patriotic market. Like there's a company, Black Coffee. It's a coffee company. What is it? Black Rifle Coffee. Yeah. And it's all about, it's made by Americans. It's made for Americans. It's made by veterans. And it's like, not everybody loves that stuff, but there is absolutely a market of people that absolutely eat that up. And if you're looking to niche down, that might be a beautiful niche. I'm not saying I can't advise you on marketing because I'm not a marketing expert, but man, as soon as you said that, I'm like, I don't know that I would change that.
Yeah. Thanks. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah. I say that the only salesperson that doesn't need a strong leader, a great leader, an effective leader is a superstar. And most salespeople just aren't superstars. And, there's a lot of people in leadership that should not be, especially I find in sales leadership, because most sales leaders are salespeople that got promoted, but never got trained. Hey, John, you're our top producer. We've paid you everything we can pay you. You've won every contest. Here's what we're going to do, John. We're going to make you a manager. And to the John in this example, that sounds great because it sounds like you're going to work less hard and make more money. Ha, ha, ha. You're not. You're going to do the opposite. You're going to work harder than your reps, and you're probably going to make less money than at least your top producers do. But the real challenge is they were never trained for leadership. They were never trained to manage. And selling and managing are two different things, absolutely. In fact, they're almost direct opposites. So when a leader's mindset is out of alignment with their stated goals, what are some of the first symptoms that you see inside a team or a business?
Yeah, first symptoms would be directly related to the actions of that said team, meaning that their actions are not, it's in that alignment column that I just mentioned. Which you already put in the question, right? Alignment. But their actions then are not in sync with that for their stated goal. And what I think is when you ask somebody, hey, what is your top, let's say you got a million things to do today. What are your top 3? You can tell a lot by how that leadership, how they've been led, by what their top 3 answer is. If it's not in direct correlation with that goal, something's out of alignment with that team. It's a pretty easy answer in my opinion. It's those top 3 things. Yeah,
as a coach, it's always easy to spot, what's your goal? Are you doing the things necessary to achieve that goal? Or are you scrolling on TikTok all day? And by the way, I love scrolling on TikTok, but it ain't putting any money in my pocket.
Or Jeff, and even kind of sometimes like a different scenario too, like, are you putting out fires first that don't need to be put out? Because it makes you feel good, right? Instead of making the tough call that you're supposed to do, right? That's more of what I see is like, okay, yeah, you still think that you're being productive, but is that your most important thing? Or could that client wait 2 hours? Client could probably wait 2 hours. Yeah.
And I find for many salespeople, everything's a fire. Everything's a fire, which it's not.
Dude, exactly what I'm talking about.
And you need to absolutely figure out, is this urgent, which means to me, it's got to be taken care of immediately. Yep. Important, doesn't have to be immediate, but got to be taken care of soon. Or is it everything else? And most people are just not good at prioritizing. It's the same thing with deals. I find all the time, salespeople chase not all, but many salespeople chase all deals equally. And all deals are not equal. And if you really want to be successful in sales, you've got to have some methodology, some pipeline management tool for figuring out what are the deals that are most likely to close the soonest with the biggest opportunity for me. And how do I focus on those and leave the other ones to the side for now? Because, we only, one of the things I teach my coaching clients and my training clients is, effective time management. And we all have the same 24 hours a day, and we all have to sleep at some point and eat, and do, relax. But, it's how do I make the most? Use the term that I love, which is productive. You can be incredibly busy all day long and not be productive at all. It's very difficult to be productive without being busy, but you can be very busy and get nothing done. And to me, I'm always looking for, am I doing the thing at this moment that's most likely to result in income? And if I'm not focused on what I call RGAs, revenue generating activities, I need to be doing something different. And especially, you're a solopreneur like I am, yes? You don't have a manager standing over you or a lieutenant telling you what to do. So you really do have to have that focus and commitment. And without those two things, you're just not gonna get where you want to go. You work with small, tight teams. I've worked with small teams and very large teams also. You don't really work with bloated organizations.
I don't.
What does a healthy small unit mindset look like inside a modern business? And what's your blueprint for building that?
Yeah, and I want to clarify. So I'll go back to real quick. So what you just mentioned, I call efficient versus effective, and those are two different things, based on on our last thing, right? Of what is efficient or what is effective. But going to this question, what I mean by small unit is what I like is, I say close-knit teams like you just mentioned. And what I primarily mean is the people that are in teams that are still actively practicing what they do for a living, right? So they're building a team and they're still selling and they're still leading and they're still X. And that is really, really important. And why I really like the work there is I think that's actually a really important part of leadership in general, right? Leading by example. And when you start building that team, you use kind of those first couple things of even Ikigai, like ever heard of right person, right seat?
Sure. EOS.
Yeah, okay. EOS. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So going through like right person, right seat, going through what are you good at? What do you like to do? That's one of my favorite exercises with the teams is let's go around. What are you good at? What do you like to do? Everybody always goes to, I hate doing this. I hate doing this. I want to offload this, offload this, offload this. I don't care. I want to know two things. What are you good at? What do you like to do? That's it. And everything else, kind of like you said earlier, everything else goes onto a list. And there's somebody out there when you're building a team that's what they're good at and what they like to do. And you find that person. Instead of using the word recruitment, I use the word selection. I use the word roster spot. There's only so many people that you have time for on your team. Pick very wisely. Okay. You're filling a roster spot on a team, not just recruiting and see if they work out. That's what I mean by that's why I like small unit leadership. That's why I like small units and working with that type of community, because it's a lot more about alignment, a lot more about leaning on each other, knowing the job above and below you, than simply just go do this. I'll check in with you in a couple of days. No, not about that.
I love hearing people that think like I do. And I just reached over for something because I have this on my desk because I have to send it to someone. But this is a book called Leverage Your Laziness. I'm actually the co-author. And
cool.
The essence of this book is do what you're good at and what you enjoy doing, and find somebody else to do the stuff that you're not good at and suck at, that you suck at or hate doing. And we use the word suck in the book constantly, my co-author and I. But yeah, you're going to be happier and more successful if you do the things that you're good at and you enjoy doing. Who wants to do crap that they don't want to do? I don't want to do bookkeeping. That's a waste of my time. I can pay some. One of the things I learned early on, actually it wasn't early on, actually it was when I bought my first house, was you have to understand the value of your time. And my now ex-wife and I were standing in front of the house we had just decided to buy with the real estate agent, shaking hands. And I see there's a guy across the street who's going to be my neighbor. And I walk over to introduce myself, and we're just chatting. I just bought the house. I'm moving in, blah, blah, blah. And I said, hey man, I know this might sound stupid, but where do you buy a lawnmower? And he goes, what do you mean? I said, I've never owned a house before. Where do you buy a lawnmower? And he looked at me like I was crazy. And he goes, why would you want a lawnmower? I said, well, I've got a front yard, and you may not have been there, but I'm going to have a backyard too. Somebody's got to cut the lawn. He goes, Jeff, if you're moving into this neighborhood, I'm going to assume you're either wealthy or you make a very nice living. And like most Jews, I said, I do all right. And he goes, yeah, you can't live in this neighborhood unless you do all right. Why would you want to take an hour of your time to cut the lawn when you can buy 5 guys who will come in 20 minutes and do it for like $50? I'm assuming your time is worth more than $50 for an hour. I'm like, yeah, a little bit. So you got to know the value of your time. And if you're not investing it wisely, and I use the term invest on purpose. There's spending time and there's investing time. And if you're not,
great distinction.
If you're not investing your time wisely, then you're throwing it away every day. And, to me, I'm all, how do I get the most done I can do every single day? Because the more I get done today, the more I can get done tomorrow. And that allows me to take care of my family and do all the things I want to do. Did you ever have a time when a client thought they needed a new strategy, but what they really needed was a new mindset? And if so, how do you build a battle plan to shift that?
Yeah, I think it goes back to connecting what they're asking the right questions, and connecting that mindset back to their vision of what they're trying to accomplish. Again, I think people lose that in the sauce, especially in sales conversations, depending on how your sales management or your sales pipeline works, how your engagement works. Sometimes that can get lost in translation throughout the process. And generally speaking, when they need what we were talking about, thought they needed a new strategy, they just need a new mindset. They need to be connected back to the reason what they're doing it for, and getting them to that point quickly, right? Back to that new mindset, I think is really, really massively important. Connecting it to things that they actually care about, right? This is sales 101. People buy on emotion, keep on logic. Go back to the emotion piece. Always go back to the emotion piece and then drop back to the logic. Most of the time when I see, at least from my example, they're looking for a new strategy, it's because they're getting too lost in the minutia and the data and the details, and they've lost the emotion of why they were doing it in the first place. Getting them connected back to that mindset, I think, is key.
I find that quite often in my practice, I have people saying things to me like, well, I want to do this, or I hope to do that, or I wish I could do the other thing. And the term I use constantly is commitment. And before somebody engages with me as a coaching client, I will actually have this conversation with them. Look, I don't care what you want. I don't care what your hopes are. I don't care what your dreams are. I don't care what your wishes are. As a human being, I care about all that stuff. But as a coach, I only care about one thing. What are you committed to? Because to me, nothing happens without. I want to have $10 million. I want to date Sofia Vergara. But I don't think either of those things are happening in the very near future. You like that one? I do like Sofia Vergara. But it's all about commitment. Yes. Can you speak to that a little bit? You can want all day long, but it's really things happen when you're committed. Yes.
Yeah. And then commitment turns into discipline, right? We got to get that spark. A lot of times they lose motivation. I think, look, watching too many motivational videos, that doesn't serve you either. But commitment is that discipline, right? Is what are you willing to do? What price, again, what cost are you willing to pay to be committed to this process? Is it time? Is it energy? Is it money? And to get to that stated result that you're looking for. And yeah, man, that's a great point. What are you committed to? I find all the time people overcommit, and they overcommit a lot of times too. And they say, like, perfect example, let's just call it workout plan, right? Somebody says, I just did a podcast about this actually a while ago, but somebody says, like, hey, I want to get back into better shape. I'm going to start going back to the gym 7 days a week. Sure you are. No, you're not. Let's start with 3. Let's get committed to your point. Let's get committed to 3. What can you commit to right now that you can accomplish, and then build on that? Stack the wins, as everybody calls it, right? Let's stack those wins and build that momentum, build that commitment. Commitment's everything, man. And if you're not committed to it, what I hate using, honestly, the word goals. I like using the word non-negotiables. What are you going to non-negotiably do? Meaning that you might run your own sales practice, you might be breaking records, but if tomorrow you'd fire yourself if you didn't do it, what's that thing? Do that all the time. Commit to that.
Yeah. And it's also knowing how the world works. It's lovely to commit to working out 7 days a week, but if you understand how muscle growth actually works, you don't build muscle while you're working out. You're actually breaking down the muscle. The muscle builds in the day off, in between the workouts. So understanding how life and the world work. Look, I was never in combat. I missed the Vietnam War by 6 months. Thankfully, I was not excited about going to Vietnam, but that's how old I am. Sorry?
Said I wouldn't have been either. No shot.
Yeah. Well, didn't know that I wanted to go to Canada and avoid the thing, but going and fighting guys in black pajamas, I'm a peace and love kind of guy, and it didn't look good to me. But I got to believe that the commitment that it takes and the training that it takes to stay alive and do your job is incredible. Because look, when I talk about active listening. When I'm teaching people active listening, I talk about, I give an example of if you were going down in an airplane and the flight attendants came out and reviewed the safety procedures, you might not have listened to them teaching you how to put on a seatbelt when you first got on the plane. But if you know the plane's going down, you're going to listen differently because your life's on the line. And in sales, your life's not on the line, but your livelihood is. But in war, it's every day. Yes. I mean, every day there could be a bullet or what do they call it? IUD? Is that it? There's a lot of stuff.
IUD.
Yeah, close. IUD is something else. That's right.
Something definitely different. Yeah.
IUD is a good thing. But yeah, I mean, it's a different headspace when you know you could die at any second. Yes. I love when an audience member is crying for my jokes. All right. John, we're almost out of time. For the listener who knows that their mindset is lagging behind their ambition, what's the first in-the-moment move that they could make, like either right now or in the next 24 hours to start a real reset?
It's that first step of the battle plan. It's clarity. You're probably lacking clarity if your mindset's off. And that might be a basic answer, but it's the truth. You know, and most of the time start in the beginning. What am I unclear on right now? Like what is like, identify the enemy. And I call it literally I call it know thy enemy. So one of the first steps that I teach everybody: know thy enemy. Sun Tzu, Art of War. It comes from that book. Okay. Honestly, I know we're out of time. I heard so many things about it. I read that a couple of years ago. I was kind of underwhelmed, to be honest with you. But either way, but that concept is huge. Know thy enemy. What is the mindset that's lagging? Most people can't identify it. So take the time and actually name it. Name it. And if you need to write it down, whatever, name it though. Understand thy enemy. People are actually hardwired for this. They are. Unfortunately, we're more hardwired to stray into conflict and like conflict. So know thy enemy, identify it, and then attack it. Right?
It's funny. It's funny when I ask coaching clients, you know, I don't say what's your biggest enemy, but it's what's your biggest challenge, but it's really the same thing. Inevitably, we say the same thing. It's me.
Me. Inevitably,
my biggest challenge is me. I'd say 99% of the people that I ask that question of, it's me. And it's true. Me too. You know, the thing that's most in the way of my success is not something out there. It's almost in here, which is why we all need a mindset coach like you, my friend.
You probably can't see it, but this is the Bellawood Creed, as I call it. And the second line of the Bellawood Creed is, I found my enemy. It was me.
There you
got
go.
a tattoo on my body, bud.
I couldn't see it, but John, I hope everybody can see this. I'm going to share my screen right now. Could you please let people know how they can reach you in case they're interested in working with you? And on the screen, for the people who are watching live or who are watching on replay, they can actually see this, but this will be converted to a podcast. So could you explain how people can reach you for the people who are listening instead of watching?
Yeah, honestly, the best way is on socials at this point in time. I send everybody there. I post a lot of free videos. That's me giving back on a bunch of different topics, sales, mindset, men's health, things like that. So my Instagram is with that. And if you want to get in touch with me more professionally, my LinkedIn's there as well. Those are both the easiest ways to get a hold of me. But my website, I usually used to give that out. Unfortunately, it's really hard for people to spell. So so that doesn't really work. But these take a snapshot, hit me up on socials. Yep.
All right. And if you are listening, take out a pencil right now, because it's B as in boy, ELLEAUWOOD.com, Bellawood.com. Or you can email me or get in touch with me, and I'll get you in touch with John. He's a great guy and certainly worth speaking with. John, any last words of wisdom before we end for today?
No, Jeff, you've been awesome. Thank you so much. This is fun. A lot of fun.
Well, before we do say goodbye, gang, there will be no podcast next week or the week after. Next week is Christmas and the day after, and I'm going to take off, and the same thing the day after New Year's. So we'll be back on, I believe, January 9th. I forgot who the guest is, but I promise it's going to be another great one. And I will end as I always do. Please remember, well, before I do that, please have a very Merry Christmas if you're not Jewish. If you are Jewish, I hope you're enjoying your Hanukkah. Whatever you celebrate, have a happy one. And please have a happy, healthy, and prosperous New Year. And always remember, sales is a game of making things happen. Get out there and make sales happen. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Jeff.